Hello and welcome to NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and we're here at the South Park Center and I'm here with William and Tom with their documentary, Making Apes. Let's take a look at the clip.
Planet of the Apes, beyond your wildest dreams.
I was fortunate enough to get a ticket from 20th Century Fox to go see their premiere opening. I sat dead center in the theater, and once I saw that gorilla come up in the cornfield, that big zoom shot, I went, oh my God.
The reveal of the gorillas is still absolutely extraordinary sequence. You see the sticks, and you see the people running, and the astronauts are like, what's up, you know?
You started to get really into the movie, and then as you were into it, you realized, wait a minute, I'm relating to these, they're apes.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. I'm blown away by your amazing documentary.
Thank you.
But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Well, Making Apes is really a century-long story of makeup artists in Hollywood, but the core of it is 50 years ago with Planet of the Apes, one of the most iconic science fiction films of all time. And that film is largely in part responsible because of the makeups, and Tom Burman here is the man behind that makeup. He and John Chambers pioneered the prosthetics in that film. So it tells his story, it tells the story of the artists who worked alongside Tom and how they shaped the industry since.
This documentary is one of the best I've ever seen. I think it will inspire anyone in cinema, appreciation of cinema, or just anyone that just wants to see what a great group of people that came together that changed cinema. How did you both come together? Obviously there's a great inspiration to why this film was made, but how did you both come together?
Well, I was taking a memoir class in Santa Barbara. And as I was writing this thing, I was trying to think of some of the things that were really outstanding in my life. And probably one of the most outstanding things was getting an apprenticeship at 20th Century Fox in the makeup department. And I started thinking about the people I knew. I knew Marilyn Monroe's makeup artist, Clark Gable's makeup artist, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, on and on and on. And I would hear their stories, and they were wonderful stories. And I was thinking, gosh, they're all dead now, and the stories went with them. And then I thought, well, I'm one of those altacockers now. so I thought, what is my story? And probably my most important thing I did in my 50-some years was worked on Planet of the Apes and was help put that together.
I mean, one of the best franchise films that has ever reached cinema. What's so fantastic is you really get to capture your story from the very beginning. And I think for anyone out there that thinks it's too difficult or tough to get into, you really were one of many people that tried to get the opportunity that you got. What was it like, coming to the decision of having this fantastic career and then deciding together to make this into a documentary? Because I mean, there's a lot of work that went into this documentary.
Well, to continue the story, I was thinking, well, I would love to make a documentary and document these people because they've never been documented before. And Will and his family have a production company in Santa Barbara, and as well as they film the Academy events and all the film festivals there. And so I went down and tapped him on the shoulder and I said, you want to do a documentary? Just started like that.
For a good year and a half prior to that, I had been getting to know Tom and his wife Barry, who are just an iconic couple in the makeup industry. The films that they worked on, their credits, I would look forward to going to screenings, not necessarily for the film, but for the half hour before the film where I could just talk to the two of them about what was it like to work on this film and to be working with these incredible directors. And I had been looking for a while for a project, and I wanted to tell a story about Hollywood. I'm a film history buff. I love reading books about films. I love watching documentaries about films and how films came to be. So Tom came and asked me. I think I cut him off mid-sentence with yes, absolutely. Let's get to work right now.
Wow, it's amazing. Now, what I couldn't believe the content and some of the footage and the moments. Like you literally captured moments in there, that unseen footage, like just moments when, you know, you were there in the makeup room together, and just these wonderful visuals that were just so powerful. It must have been quite an undertaking to put all that together.
Finding the archive work for this, it was a global event. We
Yeah.
had people working on this around the globe, Australia, England, all over the United States. The gentleman who mentored Tom, John Chambers, who's a critical part of the documentary, when he passed away, his personal archive kind of got scattered to the wind. And finding a lot of those pieces and bringing them back together was really incredible, because those went into private collections, and those photos that people donated to us to use hadn't been seen in the public before. So there's a lot of never before seen photographs and material in this documentary.
Tom, for you, what I love, I just love this story that you're one of like 90 people trying to get this job, which doesn't really, you know, change today. It's not as many roles for, you know, a lot of people that want to get into the field. But you obviously had an incredible talent, and you got this great opportunity when you were young to do this. Looking back, like, on your incredible career, do you almost have to pinch yourself with all the amazing experiences, and particularly seeing this documentary?
Please, you know, I mean, I didn't have $100 to my name before I got into makeup, and you know, to go from that to Planet of the Apes, please. It was a movie that changed the whole industry, and it changed the industry forever. And all the big studios were starting to close at that time, so it gave us an opportunity to open up the very first makeup effects studio. In fact, I coined that phrase, makeup effects. They hated it in the beginning, but everybody uses it now.
Yeah.
You know, and that whole Argo story of that, you know, it was crazy times, because we were inventing everything. You know, we did A Man Who Fell to Earth, and A Man Called Horse, and Devil's Reign, and, you know, these crazy movies with all these makeup effects. We had not a clue what we were doing when we went in it. We just invented it. Wow. Everything we did was invented from scratch. And back then there were probably 5 of us in the world that did this work. Today there's probably 2,000 or more.
It's amazing. I mean, it's hard at the time when you were actually in it, because you were just in it and you worked so incredibly hard. But when was the moment for you when you thought, my goodness, we are changing our industry right here? Like, when was that moment for you?
That probably happened in the 70s, because I started getting calls from producers, and Steven Spielberg and Brian De Palma and people like that were really established great filmmakers, and started getting called. I started realizing this is serious stuff. You know, to do like Close Encounters, you know, all of a sudden was, you know, a huge budget, and and this is really serious stuff we were doing. Up until then, it was, I loved doing what I was doing, but I always felt a little bit like the emperor's new clothes, you know, because it wasn't like you came there with any particular qualification. But I'd worked with my father. I knew how to make masks. I knew how to make molds. I knew how to cast, and I knew latex and things like that. But back then, in those days, working with my father, there was no money at all. And so all of a sudden, I was making money, and I was getting 3 or 4 projects, doing 3 or 4 films at once.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God, I just hope they don't catch me.
Yeah.
You know, I hope somebody doesn't point out, who the hell did this, and point at me, because I'd have to leave the set.
Wow. So, and actually taking the same question to you, William, like, what I love is the stories of these incredible people making these incredible film. Did you feel a moment making this documentary where you're like, this is sensational, like what we're doing is incredible?
Countless moments. I mean, every single interview that we had was unbelievable. The people opened their hearts, the emotion behind the stories that they were sharing, and also, you know, talking to this generation. You know, Planet of the Apes it was 47 years old when we started working on it, now 52 years old essentially. 3 of the artists that we interviewed in the course of making this film have passed away since we started. And having their stories on film was absolutely incredible. The widow of Dan Strepek, who was the department head on Planet of the Apes, was at the screening here at New Filmmakers. And during the Q&A, I looked up and I saw her wiping a tear with a tissue.
Saw that.
And that was an incredibly emotional moment, because that will preserve Dan Strepek's legacy for future generations.
That was a very powerful moment. I actually gave the mic, and when that was announced, and I saw her, and I thought that just did something so much for her, and I was so happy we did that. I just want to. What's so wonderful from this documentary is that I want to go. I wish I could. If I could go back in time, I want to go back and join you guys on set. That's how powerful it felt to me. Where we are today, and with this documentary, what was so great, particularly in this screening last night, this next generation of budding makeup artists were just there, captivated by this history through this documentary, and there were so many there last night.
Yes.
And from you being that intern that got brought into it, to your great experience, you know, in your career, to then passing it on to people that you thought to take it forward, and then experiencing that in last night. What is that experience like? Because that's just such a great circle of life.
Well, we've had 4 screenings. This is the 4th time that it's been seen in front of an audience, and every single time we've had makeup artists in the audience. So to see their reactions, it's incredibly fulfilling, because they're seeing, you know, where they came from, and that's going to inform where they're going from this point onward. And I know Tom can speak to it, but like Vincent Van Dyke, who Tom mentored in the industry and basically took over his studio. I mean, I think he's one of the great talents in the industry today, and I can't wait to see, you know, his long, incredible career in Hollywood. Just in the course of making this documentary, every time we went into his lab, he'd be like, "What are you working on today?" "Oh, you're doing Churchill for Darkest Hour. That's awesome. You're doing Margot Robbie and I, Tonya. That's amazing." You know, the stuff that he produces is unbelievable.
No, it's amazing. And for you, Tom, because what I love about it as well is I love the story of just, you know, when you were, you know, making you know, an ape in the back room, and you were just hidden in the corner. But you did it, and you took that chance, like, you know, like even against all odds, even against the fact that you might get a bit of, you know, anger towards you, etc. You still did it anyway. Looking back at that, was there a lot of moments where, as you say, you just were taking your chances? You know what I mean? You were trying new things, and how much repercussion did you get from that time?
I just wanted to make a difference. I wanted to contribute. Because that's really, it never was about money for me. It was always about my contribution to do something that hadn't been seen before and try something. My whole life was spent that way. And it's good and it's bad news, because when it doesn't work, you get in trouble.
Yeah.
When it works, you know, all of a sudden you're a hero. But you know, when you look at the end of the film and you see how many Academy Awards were won out of that from people who were influenced by that or worked on that film, and how many Emmys and how many British awards as well, and it's just amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and I was moved by people who were winning those awards, who came to me in absolute just in tears.
It was a very powerful experience at the New Filmmakers LA screening. I felt the love in the room, I really did. The people that you've gone on a journey with, to people that had never met you before, to these, you know, makeup artists that were bringing their mentees out. It was just such a wondrous experience. What was that experience like for you last night, enjoying that on the big screen?
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. And we had a lot of students at this screening, which meant a lot to me. I've worked with, I'm on the young side, but I've worked with a lot of student filmmakers in the last few years myself up in Santa Barbara, and I absolutely love that. I love seeing the same spark that I had, you know, when you fall in love with film. So that was great. Bobby Porter, who is one of the great interviews in the doc, who played Roddy McDowell's son in the 5th Planet of the Apes film, and then was in the TV series as well, so he knows the makeup inside out. He randomly met some film students just a few days ago and invited them to the screening, and I was talking to them afterwards, and they had such an amazing time, and it was such a enriching thing for them because it kind of justifies what they're doing. You know, they see this and they think, well, you know, that's something that they want to be a part of going forward.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And same for you. Is it nice to see?
The reaction to that film, you included, and the other people's reaction to that film was so humbling, and I think it brought me to tears as well. You know, just to see that people got it. They got it, they understood it, they felt it, and a lot of them it's their career, and they could equate their own career with my career.
I think, I mean, I heard there's a 6-hour version. I'm waiting for it. I want to see that too, because I didn't want it to finish. I was lost in this time of just your stories and the amazing places you took us to. It was just wonderful. And I think whether you haven't got anywhere near the amount of wonderful talent and skill that you have, but it certainly gave me a humongous, even more of appreciation for your industry, the appreciation for cinema and how you've shaped cinema today, that we're all here today because of the things that you put in place and the places that you took us. That was so powerful to experience, and I think that's what resonated in the room last night as well.
Well, I'm just so thankful we got that.
Yes.
I connected with Will because he did a beautiful job of putting this together. You know, it's not easy. It's not like making a regular film where you're scripted, you know where you're going. You're making it up, which is my world. It's the serendipity world of making it up as you go and balancing it out and figuring out whether you're going in the right direction, whether you have to make changes, what stays, what doesn't. And I think we ended up with how many hours did we end up with footage?
110 hours of total footage, including interviews, prosthetic appliances. Now that, I mean, when you think about it, 6-hour makeup sessions can then make up a lot of footage, but we had a lot. Our transcripts, when we sat down to start kind of really figuring out the core story, our transcripts were 2,000 pages.
Wow.
And we went through every single inch of footage over and over and over again to really find those key moments that told the story as best as possible.
And okay, 110 hours, I'm waiting for it. I'll watch that too. But how wonderful is it for you, Tom, to, you know, not everyone gets to have the legacy of their career reflected back on camera. Is that such a lovely experience to see?
It's a lovely experience. It's humbling, you know, because the reaction that people have to it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how that was going to be. I didn't want to come off as some ego-driven person. I wanted to share this thing, and to have that experience was out of this world.
I think that's one of the, I don't think you come across as the most humble person. I can't quite believe all you've achieved, and you're still just as humble as when you first had $100 and you're trying to get, you know, your foot in the door. Going from both of you now, I mean, as a filmmaker, I love that you were so, you know, persistent, and then you this energy you've created together and made this documentary. For you as a filmmaker, I'm going to turn to both of you, but for you as a filmmakers, what have you learned in your career thus far that maybe you can share for any filmmaker out there? Any advice that you have or things that you go by?
Well, definitely know your story. I mean, know your story inside out. We didn't even begin the editing process until we had combed through every interview multiple times and really knew exactly where we wanted to go with the story. That's why we actually had such a short post-production time. We had 6 weeks post-production, where some films will have 6 months of post-production.
Wow.
Because we did so much preparation after filming and before getting into the actual editing that we knew our story inside out. And then I'd say just, you know, have the best crew that you can possibly put together, the people that you can trust. The glorious thing about this film is when you look at the credits, there's a lot of Burmans and a lot of Collins in there.
Yes.
Because both our families have a passion for this, and our families worked on this. My father was our cinematographer. My mother was a producer. Tom's wife was our executive producer. Tom and Barry's son is the post-production supervisor. Tom's nephew did the sound mixing. I mean, this was really 2 families that came together, and having that trust was really an important thing. So
I met both your mum and dad last night, who are lovely people and so proud of you, and what amazingly talented families that you've come from as well, honestly. Thank you for that. For you, Tom, where do you begin to say what piece of advice or experiences do you have? But if there's anyone out there, like, with that same kid that was trying to say, I want to
I'm going to start
this.
off with one thing, one
Go
of my
ahead.
favorite sayings. You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. Because you should have a plan,
Yeah.
but you have to be prepared, because that plan will, especially in the entertainment business, you'll snake through all kinds of things and the other thing is it takes 10 years.
Yep.
I don't care what you're doing, if you're doing camera, makeup, if you're a grip, electrician, wardrobe, doesn't matter. It takes 10 years before you start to learn what you're doing. It takes 10 years of that compiled experience. And the other thing is, if you're a young person starting out and you want to know how to get started, find a place what you want to do, go to somebody who can make that happen, and tell them you'll just want to be there, and give them 3 days of no money, just learn what they're doing, clean up after them, because when you make the person you're working for their job easier, you're worth money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't appreciate it. I've taught many, 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 many people. And what I do after that, I start them off at minimum wage.
Yeah.
And then I look at their incentive. I want to see what their passion is, what drives them. And I give them all opportunities to do sculpting or painting or whatever, to find out where their talent lies. And it takes time, and you have to figure these are the steps in the 10 years that allow you to get to where you want to get. And some of the people that I've trained are some of the top people in this business today.
It's amazing how many people he's influenced. We did a crowdfunding campaign to do the post-production for this film, and it was kind of like the end of It's a Wonderful Life, when the whole town comes in to support Jimmy Stewart. I was getting messages on our Indiegogo campaign every single day. Somebody would support the campaign, and then they would say, Tom Burman is the reason I'm a success today.
Wow.
His mentorship of people through the years is just
They
astounding.
didn't pay me either. Should have paid me.
They should have, right? Absolutely. I think this is such an important documentary to make, to see, to watch, to experience. And through that documentary, you taught us as well, and reminded us or reminisced us, like so many different elements to why this film was fantastic. And I'm so grateful that your wonderful families came together to make this documentary happen. Making Apes, please see it. It's fantastic. But thank you very much to William, and thank you very much to Tom. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.